Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to the Q&A session. A number of you were also in the info session, so please welcome back. We're just going to do a quick overview of a very brief overview of the streams before we actually get into the Q&A session again. So first, we'd like to begin today with a land acknowledgement. So we begin by acknowledging that we are joining you from Toronto, which is situated upon traditional territories. The territories include the Wendat, Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Mississaugas of the First Credit Nation and the Métis Nation. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is still the home of many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community on this territory. We encourage you to make your own acknowledgement in the chat if you're calling from other areas across Canada. So here's a quick overview of what we will be covering today. We're going to go a brief welcome introduction, an overview of the Resilient Futures program, and brief overview of each stream. And then we have some pre-collected questions that I will answer that were left over from the info session. And then we will open it up to the Q&A. So once again, my name is Fedra. I'm the Manager of Grants Administration at Prosper Canada, and I'll be guiding you through the process today and be responding to any inquiries you have regarding funding and the application portal. You can reach me at resilientfutures@prospercanada.org. So here's our overview. Once again, Prosper Canada is proud to launch Resilient Futures, building financial well-being for all Canadians on a $60 million initiative, committed to enhancing financial stability and well-being nationwide. It will fund community organizations that provide free, essential financial empowerment services, such as tax filing, help accessing benefits, financial coaching and counseling, and financial education. Resilient Futures also has funding specifically available for organizations serving First Nations, Métis and Inuit, Black communities, and those living with disabilities. Our mission with this funding is to empower over 1 million Canadians and unlock over $2 billion in essential benefits and financial resources, paving the way for financial resilience across Canada. So I'll give you just a very brief overview again, just as a reminder for the streams, which are also in the info session that was recorded and in the guidelines and criteria doc that is also on our website. So the first stream of funding is called, Stream 1 is the Financial Empowerment Hub. So we're looking to fund approximately 10 individual organizations or up to 4 joint partnerships. For individual organizations, we're offering up to $450K annually. As a joint partnership, we're offering up to $1 million annually. This stream funds regional or population-focused hub organizations that provide high-quality core financial empowerment services, as well as resources and supports to other organizations providing financial empowerment services. Hubs provide capacity strengthening and service ecosystem coordination, supports to other organizations, helping to advance the local ecosystem of financial empowerment supports. Stream 2 is the Financial Empowerment Partner. This stream, we're looking to fund approximately up to 15 organizations with funding requests of up to $300K annually. And it's going to fund community organizations that already deliver essential financial empowerment services that will be expanded to engage more people regionally or across Canada. Lastly, Stream 3 is the Priority Population Financial Empowerment Growth Partner. This fund, we're looking to support approximately 7 organizations with funding requests of up to $200K annually. The stream supports projects focused on at least one of the priority populations, so either Black communities, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and or those living with disabilities. So for example, you might service Black communities and those living with disabilities. It's okay to mix the two, but you have to serve at least one of the priority populations to be eligible. Organizations must have established expertise in supporting at least one of these priority populations or have a mission and mandate to primarily focus their services and programming on at least one of those priority populations. Okay, so last week, as I mentioned, we held an info session on Resilient Futures funding. And so we had a number of questions that we didn't have time to get to. So we've compiled a few, especially the more common ones, that I'll start the session with, and then we'll get into the questions that you put in the box. So first question, can we apply to multiple streams? No, your organization can apply to multiple streams. You must select one and one project only. We will not take more than one project into consideration. So please review the facts and glossary, and guidelines and criteria documentation for further information. Second question, can we have one application for multiple regions? Depends on what the proposed project is. So for example, if you're proposing financial empowerment services for some Atlantic regions, given their size and available services, it could be eligible. So PEI, for example, that would the whole region could be, the whole province could be the region that you're serving. Now, if you're a hub focused on a priority population like Black communities, you could potentially serve multiple regions. Next question, can you quantify high reach numbers? Use the baselines as a reference. For example, one organization may far exceed the baseline reach numbers, whereas an org serving a priority population or rural remote area may look very different. So while we do have specific overall targets that we have to reach, we're looking for a blend of services and distribution. So use the baseline as kind of a gauge. You don't have to be exact at those baselines, but it's the closest thing that we could offer in terms of where you should be with that blend of services. You can have different blends of services. So for example, one-on-one coaching, financial coaching and financial education might be a little bit more expensive and the numbers might be a little bit lower. That's okay. Do you have to be able to reach at least 1,750 clients in order to apply? Again, this is a baseline blend that takes number of clients and funds requested into consideration, and it depends what stream you're applying to. We also consider what activities you'll take part in to expand reach on existing services to reach more clients. Also, I just want to stress to applicants to adjust the funds requested to the baseline amounts. For example, if you do not think your organization can reach the suggested baseline amount, so for example, the 1,750, then adjust your funding requests to less that still aligns with your project work plan and budget. So you don't necessarily have to ask for the maximum amounts if it doesn't make sense for your reach and what you're trying to achieve with your work plan and budget. Next question, what is meant by regional? So in this context, regional generally means, especially if you're a frontline organization, it generally refers to their catch basin areas. Some organizations may go beyond their typical region. So for example, they serve a specific portion of the city, but their services could expand into other nearby rural areas because services are not available in those areas. In an Ontario context, there could be organizations that mainly offer service supports in Toronto, like East York, Toronto, but the services can and do extend into other GTA areas. In some cases, as I mentioned earlier, like smaller Atlantic provinces, the region might be the entire province. Last question on the general questions page. Is it beneficial to have a multilingual partner, i.e. French, English? And is this a requirement? If you're applying as a hub, it would depend. It's a nice to have, but not required if your region of impact is not national in scope. and or does not service French-speaking clients. If your organization is located in a heavy Francophone areas, it is then expected that French be part of the services offered. Regardless of your region, though, we expect that you would have an ability to ensure that the person could receive service in either official language. So, for example, through telephone translation service or a referral to another organization. Now we'll get into some stream-specific questions that we received. So the first question is regarding project duration. So project duration is from October 2025 to March 2029, which is 3.5 years. So what is the max funding overall per year if I request 200K per year? As noted in the documents, the funds will be prorated. So if you receive 200K per year, you would receive 100K for the first year from April 2025 to March 2026, and 200K for each subsequent year. Next question. Will there be consideration given to those in rural communities? Yes, we do give consideration to those in rural communities, and you're asked within the application about the size or type of community that you serve. So you'll see there's a section which says urban, rural, remote, etc. If a hub org is redistributing funds to partners, does it need to be restricted only to Indigenous and Black-led or serving orgs or those working primarily with people with disabilities? Or can the low-income population served be broader? So this is a bit of a two-parter. So it can be priority population. It can be a priority population-focused ally or a key underserved community population that your organization serves, like newcomers, for example. There have been a lot of questions around the redistribution of funds, and I want to reiterate that this is an optional option for your organization if you're applying. It is not meant to fund your partner or associate organizations that are providing financial empowerment services. So the ally organizations are more like a community connector, for example. They could provide assistance with outreach, host events, provide feedback to the applicant or organization to better meet the needs of the community. As noted in the documents, it says you may also request as part of your funds to support ally organizations in your ecosystem that play an important part in helping you serve vulnerable communities. Typically, these organizations help reach specific communities by brokering connections, hosting events, and services provided by your organization, and providing feedback and collaboration to help you adapt your services to meet the needs of the community. Next question. If you apply as a hub, do you have to be an organization that provides services in all three categories? Tax filing, access to benefits, and financial coaching, or just a variety of financial services? So the financial empowerment services that we are funding are tax filing, access to benefits, one-on-one financial coaching, and financial education. Furthermore, information on eligible financial empowerment services starts about on page 10 of the guidelines and criteria doc under eligible and ineligible expenses if you would like to learn more on that. Last question on the streams. If you apply for one stream, can you also be listed as a partner in another application? So short answer is no. You cannot apply to receive additional funding if you're part of another application. Organizations that are listed in multiple streams will not be considered. You can note in your application the connections and collaborations between your organizations, but you can only be applying for funding under one application. Now we have a few portal questions. Can the LOI application be shared, saved and shared in a Word document prior to submitting? There's no way to export it as a Word document. You can export it as a PDF and then convert it to Word, but you can also review the application instructions document for your stream within the application instructions on the website, All the questions, including word counts and guidance on how to answer the questions, are located in that document. So you can use that as a guide if you want to write your answers in Word before pasting them into the portal. But all the applications do need to be submitted through the portal. Last question in the portal section. Can multiple people from the same organization or different organizations work on one application in the portal? Yes, there's a blue button on the right-hand top of the screen that will allow you to collaborate with others on the application. You just have to submit their email and they'll be sent a link to allow them to collaborate on that application. Next question. This is part of the review process, some review process questions. How will you make sure the French and English application will be treated equally? Will you have bilingual reviewers? Yes, we do have bilingual reviewers, and they are part of the process. Next question. If you, as the funder, feel that the LOI is improperly classified, will you consider an LOI proposal under a different classification? Or will that proposal be dead for the future? If you're not sure, I highly suggest that you reach out and ask specific questions about your project before submitting, if you're not sure about what stream you want to apply to. There's no guarantee that we'll be able to go back and say you should have applied under X stream, especially because if there's a very high volume of applicants. So please, if you're not sure, please reach out as soon as possible as to which fit you would be best under. Lastly, there's some other questions that we've compiled. If funded, will Prosper Canada be providing the quantitative and qualitative outcome measurements projects are to use? Yes, Prosper Canada will provide all details on outcome measurements as we strive to have as much consistent data as possible from across all the grantees. Can full salaries for new positions be included in Stream 2 funding? For example, expanding current staff from 1 to 3 positions for the 3 years. Yes, and it depends on how it relates to the project work plan and budget. So the new staff have to be part of that project in order for their salaries to be covered. For example, if part of your proposal is to expand client reach and or expand programming, you can make the case for how new staff members will be involved in that. Next, what kind of reporting is attached to the 20K funding for allies? The redistribution of funds is essentially like a micro grant to your ally organizations. So this means that they also must sign sub-project agreements with your organization with us, and they are subject to auditing from the federal government and Prosper Canada. And they must submit financial reporting of how they were using the funds. Next question, is the 20K per ally one time or annually? It can be one time or annually, depending on what activities are outlined in your work plan. Please remember that these ally organizations are not providing financial empowerment services. The ally organizations, again, they're a community connector. They could provide assistance with outreach, host events, provide feedback, etc. Please be mindful of your budgets as well. For example, if you're applying for the FE partner stream and you're proposing to give up to 20K per ally org annually, and you've decided that you want to fund 10 ally orgs, that's 200K annually. And if you're applying for the maximum amount for the FE partner stream, which is 300K, that will only leave you 100K as the main applicant who will be doing the financial empowerment services. So just please be mindful of the amounts when you're doing your budget and your work plan, and how, if you do want to take the route of redistributing funds to some of your ally, think about how you're going to go about that and how it will affect your overall work to reach the numbers that you're proposing. For eligible activities to be funded, must the activities focus solely on financial literacy, or can it be financial empowerment with career building supports? So the eligible financial empowerment activities are listed in the guidelines and criteria doc, starting around page 10. We do not fund activities around career building, training support. Our main focus for this funding is on those financial empowerment services listed. And that is it for the questions that we had left over from the info session. So we're going to pass it on to the Q&A box. So Jenny, when you're ready, I can stop sharing here.
Great. Thank you, Phaedra. So I do have some questions, and I know that some questions were also posted in the chat. We'll do our best to address ones that haven't been covered, but there may be some overlap, and we'll just publish a few of them. Okay, here's the first one. I don't know if everybody can see it, but I will read it out. Does the project have to run for the full duration of the granting period? Could we, for example, delay the start of the project until mid-2026?
I would need a little bit more info. So it also depends on how much you're applying to. So for example, if you're applying for the full amount, we'd have to assess whether you can actually get all the amount of the amount that you're asking for a work plan budget within a more constrained amount of time. If you're asking for less funding, there's a possibility that might be fine, but I would suggest that you reach out so that we can have a deeper conversation of what that means.
Okay, some people are having difficulty seeing the Q&A, so my apologies. It can be dependent on some of the functionality that you have. So we'll do our best to use the chat if needed, as well as the Q&A. And of course, I'll make sure to read out all of the questions. I do have a question is, can you speak again about how region is defined? For example, is a Toronto organization, for example, we are a Toronto organization and you want to serve the GTA. So the question's a little unclear. So just a little bit more about that definition of region.
So let me get this straight. It's a Toronto organization that wants to serve the GTA, or are they trying to ask me to expand on the example?
They want to serve the GTA is my understanding of the question. So would that be region? Is that defined?
Yeah, if your organization, because some organizations in Toronto already do serve organizations outside of the Toronto designation, they might go into the neighboring GTA areas. That's fine. That can also be considered a region. In terms of region, it will vary on your catch basins and area of impact. So for example, if you're applying in PEI, the entire province could potentially be your region because it's so small and there's not as many service providers in the area. And that organization might be the main service provider for the entire province.
Okay, thank you. All right, another question. This was also sent via email, supposedly. So in terms of the suggested number of 1,750 participants per 100,000 K, is this number of individual clients or number of contacts? Also, in terms of population served, if focusing on low income, how will the status of low income need to be verified? Would this be by self-identification or through documentation?
So the first part to your question is clients. As far as identification, we have measurements in place. Different organizations might have different metrics that they use. When it comes to the reporting period, there's a set of metrics that we recommend that would fit into what you're currently doing. So it would just depend on, I would like to know what they're actually doing right now as an organization. How are they collecting that data?
Okay. Is the hub, Stream 1, expected to just be a hub with the identified partners in the application, or beyond that? to be a hub to the other organizations that may be selected for funding from streams 2 and 3?
Yeah, it would depend too on what you're focused on. So for example, if you're a hub and you're serving Black communities across Canada or Indigenous communities, there would be some potential overlap in training that would be involved with the Stream 3 who are looking to build financial empowerment services. And so that's more a priority population focus. If you're a regional focused hub, you're expected to focus more on your region of impact. So it just depends on what your focus is as a hub. Is it region-based or is it priority population focused?
Great, thank you. Would a federation be considered a hub under this criteria? So in brackets, 10 plus organizations with different charitable registration numbers, but operating under the same brand.
Sorry, Jenny, can you repeat that one?
Would a federation be considered a hub under this criteria? 10 plus organizations with different charitable registration numbers, but operating under the same brand.
I'd have to know a little bit more, like, do they offer financial empowerment services? If you're applying as a joint application with all these organizations, I would need to know a little bit more about what their services are that they're providing. Because if they're not offering any financial empowerment services, they technically cannot be part of a joint application in the hub.
I'm going to ask one more, and then I'm going to pass it to Sharmeen, who might be able to identify some of the questions that are coming in the chat. So Sharmeen, maybe you can pick another one for our next question. The next one that I have is, would youth be considered a priority population for Stream 3, or is it only the ones listed?
It's only the ones listed. Like, youth would be considered one of the underserved populations, but they are not a priority population as part of this funding stream. Funding Stream 3 is specifically for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, Black communities, and those living with disabilities. Now, that doesn't mean that youth can't be part of those communities, but they have to identify as part of that main priority population.
Sharmeen, do you have a question?
I have several here. Thanks, Jenny. Here's one, Phaedra. We are an organization that supports 33 adult literacy programs across Toronto and York region. We are not frontline workers. We create resources and provide professional development to programs in order to carry out literacy services. Financial literacy is a part of the programs. Would we be eligible to apply under Priority Populations Growth Partner Stream?
And sorry, what is the priority population they serve?
They serve adult literacy programs.
But there's no specified priority population.
No.
Again, main criteria for priority population, you need to serve at least one of those communities listed. Second, for that one, the Stream 3 in particular is about developing financial empowerment services. So the ones that we listed, the 4 financial empowerment services listed. So Stream 3 is to help those priority populations create programming for their communities. If you have any further questions or need clarity on that one, feel free to email me, please.
Thank you, Phaedra. The next question is, we are a financial literacy and entrepreneurial society hub. We provide support to individuals and grassroots organizations, but have a priority focus of BIPOC, 2S LGBTQIA+, low income and disadvantaged individuals. Should we apply for Stream 1 or 2?
Sorry, how many financial empowerment services did they say they have?
They did not mention the number of services, but they have outlined who they serve. Priority focus is BIPOC, 2S LGBTQIA+, and low income and disadvantaged individuals.
I would need more information. I would need to know how many financial empowerment services they provide, because for streams 1 and 2, there's a minimum amount that they have to meet to be eligible for those streams. So if you would like, please email me so we can have a further discussion on it.
Thank you. And I have added Phaedra's email address to the chat for those of you who are trying to reach out to her. And all right, the next one, Phaedra. If you are serving homeless and low-income people, which include targeted communities such as Indigenous, Black, and people living with physical or mental disabilities, does that qualify as serving priority groups?
So for serving priority population groups, you'd have to demonstrate for that population, you have to demonstrate need for that community. And ideally, it should not only be serving the community, it should be led by the community it serves.
Thank you. This was a follow-up question, just a clarification. If you apply as a hub, do you have to provide services in all 3 categories?
When they say categories, are they referring to the
financial 3 streams? I think the 3 streams.
Okay, so if they're a hub, they're asking if they have to provide services to all 3 of the streams.
It just says categories. It just says categories. It's not clear.
Okay, have that person who wrote that just email me to clarify, because I'm not sure what they mean by categories.
All right. Can we apply to stream 3 by only one organization serving newcomers and seniors?
Stream 3, unless the newcomers and seniors fall under one of those priority populations, they cannot apply for it. So if the newcomers and seniors are specifically for Black communities or those living with disabilities, then yes, you can apply. That would be the main focus of the organization. If not, that is not the stream for them.
All right. Next one is, can you speak again about how region is defined? For example, are a Toronto organization and you want to serve the GTA? I'm feeling you've answered this. It seems to have come up again. Did you want to elaborate more?
I think Jenny also read it earlier too, but I can again elaborate too. It generally will refer to your organization's catch basin. Some organizations, depending on where they're situated, will have a wider catch basin. So for example, if you're in an Atlantic-based province, PEI, for example, your organization might be servicing the entire province. There's organizations located in BC and Alberta who may serve a medium or large urban area, but they also have services to rural remote areas because they don't have any other services available, and they are the main organization for that in those areas.
So we actually have a comment back from Helene, who was speaking a bit earlier, who asked about the 3 categories. So she's clarified a little bit. She says, if you apply as a hub, do you have to provide service in all 3 categories? She meant tax filing, access to benefits, and financial counseling/coaching.
Yeah, if you're applying for this hub stream, the organizations must provide at least 3 of the 4. And if you don't have the full 4, it's expected that someone you're partnering with in the hub joint application provides the rest of them. So all 4 or 3.
Thank you, Phaedra. And here is another one. We are an organization that's a Black Francophone in an English environment, collaborating with community organizations of Black Francophone countries. Can we collaborate with them?
Black, okay. I see this one in the chat. I'm just going to reread it so I can. When they say Black Francophone countries, I am assuming they mean projects or organizations outside of Canada. We cannot fund anything related to projects or organizations outside of Canada.
Thank you. Are there different regions within Toronto?
Yeah, it depends on if you're some organizations focus more on the East End, some are more downtown focused. You could service the entire, it depends on how busy you are. And certain organizations within Toronto have specific catch basin areas where clients are referred to them. Some can go beyond that, and especially if you're in a collaborative, you can go beyond whether it's in Toronto or the GTA, and even within other regions. So if you're in the Northern Territories, the region could be significantly larger than what Toronto is, but there would be less people.
I see. And then just a follow-up, Phaedra, when we were also speaking about the Black Francophone community, we have a clarification comment here. Community organizations of people from those countries. So my understanding is that it is not work outside of Canada. It is for newcomers or perhaps immigrants to Canada.
I need a little bit more information on that. So I'd like to know more about what stream they're applying to, what kind of financial empowerment services they have, or if they're thinking of applying for stream 3, what are they thinking of launching in terms of financial empowerment services if it's for stream 3?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. They say they will reach out to you directly. And the next question I have is the 1,750 client reach over the project period. That is 3.5 years or per year?
Per year.
Per year.
We're talking
All
about
right.
the baseline, right? The
Yep.
1,750 baseline, yeah.
And then the next one. Our organization supports children, teens, and young adults with developmental disabilities. Our young adult program provides financial/money management education, but we also see a need to provide support to the families, parents of all of our clients, particularly those who are low income, to help them understand the funding ecosystem for people with disabilities, including government supports, RDSP, disability tax credit, disability benefits, etc. There is a gap in information for these parents in terms of knowledge on how their child, teen, and young adult with disabilities can be financially secure.
That sounds like something that could go under access to benefits. I still need to learn a little bit more about the organization, what other financial empowerment services they offer, or how they plan on expanding, but that sounds like something that would fit under access to benefits. So if they would like to reach out, we can also have a chat.
Our focus is poverty reduction for low-income populations of Northwestern Ontario. We offer year-round tax filing services and also informally offer financial counseling through some of our poverty reduction programs, although not a standalone program. Is this enough to qualify us for Stream 2?
I would need to learn a little bit more about their overall numbers. Did they say what their reach numbers are right now?
No.
Is there a priority population that they focus on?
Just says low income populations.
Okay, for some of the more organization specific ones, please email me. And we can go into more detail about ones that are very specific to your organization and your region.
Folks who are adding to the chat, please know that while I can see your chat, I'm not always sure if you're doing a follow-up, which your part of your original question was. So bear with us as we try and kind of tally them together.
I have a few more from the Q&A, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Can an organization be focused only on one aspect of empowerment, for example, financial education, or is there more weight granted to consideration that cover more than one area of empowerment, for example, financial education and income support applications?
Did they say which stream they're looking at? I assume they're maybe looking at stream 2.
It does not say.
Okay. For stream 2, you need to have a minimum of 2 financial empowerment services, and the ones listed are in the guidelines and criteria doc. For stream, the hub stream, you need a minimum of 3 to 4. The only one that does not require to have a minimum, although you could have a minimum of one, is the third stream, which is the Priority Populations Financial Empowerment Growth Partner stream.
I have another one. For the 4 joint partnerships of up to 1 million, does the funding need to be equally spread across the organizations within each partnership, or can one or more organizations utilize a larger share of the 1 million?
Yeah, it depends on what the budget is, what the services are that each organization is doing. So, for example, if one organization is focused primarily on financial education and one-on-one financial coaching, that tends to be a bit more expensive than tax filing, for example, and requires a bit more resources. So it does not have to be equal across the board. It would just generally depend on what the work plan is and what each organization is responsible for.
Okay, I do have a few more, but Sharmeen, feel free to jump in as well. Here's one more I have. Can you please clarify that staff expenses within a 15% limit is not staff salaries?
So the 15%, it's up to 15% for admin and overhead costs. The staff salaries are separate. So if you're asking for to hire a staff member, as mentioned in one of the earlier questions, the staff member and their responsibilities have to align with the budget and work plan and how it's going to relate to the project.
Okay, I'm going to pass it to you, Sharmeen, to see if you have another one.
Phaedra, in stream 2, can you just increase the number of people served rather than the geographic region?
Yes, so if you have ways of expanding your reach, you don't have to expand your region. You just, if you're looking to expand the number of clients you get, by all means. So part of the funds could be going towards greater outreach. And so, for example, if you wanted to hire staff to put on more coaching, financial empowerment education courses, and do just general more services, that is one way you could do so.
Great. And the next one is, we are an incorporated nonprofit with over 10 years of service in the Black community, specifically Black moms. We have several financial education and literacy programs and services. We feel that Stream 3 would be best, but Stream 3 seems to be for new development and not continued programs. Where should we focus?
Oh, they can you don't have to have a program, financial empowerment program, but if you have one and you're looking to expand and offer more financial empowerment services, so for example, you're doing financial education and you want to start doing one-on-one financial coaching, you could use some of the funds to expand your current programming and then add additional programming into it. So looking into establishing one of the other financial empowerment services that we have listed.
All right, and I'm going to ask you, Phaedra, a follow-up from the region question. We are hub and partners applying together. As a whole, our 14 organizations serve all of Ottawa, rural, suburban, and urban. We would all deliver the same services across Ottawa. Does this work as a region?
What kind of services are they doing? All 4 financial empowerment services?
So they say it's a follow-up, so I'm sensing they've, oh, someone's answered yes. There we go.
Okay, I see. From Andrea. Andrea, if you could email me, we'll talk a little bit further on the details of that.
Thank you. All right. Another one. With up to 7 organizations potentially being funded for Stream 3, is one of the criteria that the applicant will be reviewed against is that they serve as many people as close as they can to the baseline number. Thus, the more number served, the higher the chance of being eligible.
For Stream 3, the baseline doesn't actually apply to them. So The baselines are used primarily for the hub and partner stream. When it comes to the third stream, the priority population stream, the baseline does not strictly apply to them. You can use the baseline if you'd like to kind of get an idea of what services may cost, but it is not based on that, because the idea is that you either have one financial empowerment service and that you'd like to expand your service, or you have no services and you want to launch those services for your community.
Thank you. Here's the next one. This is a bit of a long one. We already deliver all of the financial empowerment services, tax filing support, access to benefit support, one-on-one financial coaching or counseling, and financial education to a priority population. Our most popular in-demand service is one-on-one financial coaching sessions. We serve approximately 700 clients from a priority population annually, of which 600 are one-on-one sessions and 100 through workshops annually. Our financial coaching services are in extremely high demand and too much for our one financial coach to manage. We would like to add a second financial coach to our team. We are currently growing incrementally, reaching approximately 50 more clients over year. Are these figures and this growth significant enough to be considered against Stream 2?
I'm curious to know which priority population where you're located. So Lanny, if you could email me some more details too about your organization or your charity or your nonprofit, where you're located and what priority population you are, please email me and we could discuss further.
And I have one other question here. Are you looking to fund organizations or hubs who will be able to sustain the growth and progress after the 3.5 years are over? For example, if there is a need to hire 2 new staff members to achieve the desired growth in our proposal, will our proposal be rejected if we can't sustain the cost of those 2 staff members post-funding?
I mean, when it comes to this is a little bit of a trickier question, because part of the expectation is that you're able to leverage some of funding going forward to be able to sustain the hub in the long term. Mind you, things happen that we won't know post-funding whether you can actually sustain this. So if this staff person that you're hiring can only be sustained through our funding, the expectation is that you're also working to try and secure other funding to sustain the hub going forward once Resilient Futures funding has completed. And like part of our partner care, if you get selected, is that our organization is going to offer some wraparound supports to find alignment with other funding streams or other organizations that could potentially help keep the hubs going forward. It's not a guarantee, but it is part of our mission is to sustain it in the long term.
Thank you, Phaedra. I'm going to pass it over to Jenny. Jenny, I think you have some questions, including some from Dean.
Yes, thank you. So part A, what will the payment schedule look like for the hub stream? It will help us figure out our partner subcontractor costs and manage our cash flow.
So at this point, we'll have quarterly financial requirements. So you'll have to submit quarterly reports, and then once those quarterly reports are submitted, you will get your next installment.
And part B to that is, will there be a full program audit requirement or a notice to reader requirement? If yes, what frequency over the duration of the project?
Generally, like if the federal government decides to do an audit, they will give us some notice. There have been situations with sometimes, for example, I've been involved with a provincial ministry that gave very little notice. So it really depends too on the political climate, but on average, the general is that you will get some notice if the federal ministry decides to audit, and we will give you advance notice. It doesn't mean that you will get audited, but you should be prepared and always have your financials arranged and in place in case you do get audited.
Great, thank you. For agencies that provide all 4 of the services, how does group workshops like financial education relate to the baseline 1750? I believe you only broke down the 1750 into the one-on-one services, taxes, benefits, access, and financial counseling.
So they're asking if group services, like, are they talking online, in person?
It doesn't say, but any kind of group workshop, would they count towards the 1750?
If it's under the financial education, if it's like a workshop, for example, that they're offering, then yes.
Great, thank you. On page 3 of the guidelines, under program goals, it is mentioned that providing training and capacity building supports to organizations is one of the aims of the funding. Could you elaborate on what this might look like?
So, for example, as a hub, the general expectation is that you become a leader in your field and for the greater area. So you might need to provide, especially for some smaller organizations that are looking for support, you might provide mentorship. You might provide, if you have office space or meeting space, so that other organizations who don't have the same capabilities can use your space. Convene the sector that you're in. So, for example, bring everyone together that is part of the hub and the greater hub. So if you have multiple hubs in your province, you could potentially bring those hubs together, convene, share best practices, make referrals, etc., provide mentorship for some of the smaller organizations. The idea for the hub is that you are at the height of expertise, especially in your region, and then you can provide a lot of services to other growing organizations so that other organizations can come into the space and take care of some of the other priority populations or underserved communities that are not getting those services.
Thank you. I am sensitive to the fact that we only have 5 more minutes. I can ask maybe one more question, but I also want to ask you, Phaedra, is there anything else that you want people to know in terms of how to get questions that have not been answered addressed in the future in terms of reaching out to you? Do you want to maybe talk about that?
Yes, in terms of, thank you, Jenny. Please continue to send any of the more complex questions that pertain specifically to your organization. I stress to please review the documents, the guidelines and criteria, the facts, and the individual application instruction documents. Within those documents are also guidance on how to answer. So if you have any further questions after reviewing those documents or need clarity on anything, please reach out to the general Resilient Futures email, and we will try and get back to you as soon as possible. Just a note, though, that the application is due. The LOI closes on May 14th, 11:59 p.m. EDT. So if you do have any questions, please get them in before the due date so that you have time to submit.
Great, thank you. All right, I'll ask a couple more until we get to 3 o'clock. And just a reminder that we have recorded the session and we will supply the recording as well as a copy of the PowerPoint. So one of the final questions I have is, in past projects, Prosper has tracked full agency outcomes that were achieved with leveraged funds. Are the targets expected to be achieved solely through the Resilient Futures funding or through including leveraged funds?
That's a good question, and one that is a topic of conversation. I would ask that this person please email me so we can discuss this further. Which organization to send this?
It is Woodgreen.
Okay, it's Woodgreen. Okay, ask Woodgreen to please email me.
Okay. Sharmeen, are there any last questions that you want to address from the chat?
I don't believe there are any more in the chat. Thank you so much, Jenny and Phaedra.
Oh, I think there's one that someone has addressed here. Can allies be trained to deliver one FE service, but not the entire 4 services?
No, the ally organizations are not meant to do any financial empowerment training, unless it depends on what you mean. For example, if they're focused on a priority population, when it comes to like culturally appropriate materials, a review of any of the training, that could potentially be allowed, but it just depends on what you're using this ally organization for. So 20K, for example, is up to 20K is still not a significant amount of money to do some of these services. So it would largely depend for what we're trying to say at this point is that these organizations should not be providing financial empowerment services on behalf of the main applicant organizations.
And similarly for Stream 3, can we use funding to hire financial experts to train our staff in financial services?
Yes, so there's a portion of funding that you could give towards a consultant, for example. Just be mindful of how much when it comes to your budget and overall budget, and how much the consultant takes of your entire budget per year. It would have to be reasonable to the work plan and the goals and the budget overall.
Okay, thank you. All right, it seems that we are out of time. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Phaedra, thank you so much. It's a lot of information for everyone to take in, but we will do our best to continue to answer any questions that people have. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you all for joining us.
I would also like to thank our interpreters and our CART. We really appreciate your support.
And a big thank you to Jenny and Shermeen for handling all the Q&A and this session.